She is calling to order at 7:33. Okay.
Scott's on his way in now.
I was going to say, Scott said he might just be a little bit late, so.
Okay. And Richard Hanks is here for the Inspection Services Building Commissioner's budget.
Excellent. Welcome, Richard.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
I'm happy to share the
you.
screen while Richard goes through his budget
Yes, if you would,
request.
please.
Yeah. Okay, Richard.
You're up.
So I'm up. So my budget is pretty much level funded with the exception of the COLA, which increased labor. They do have a slight reduction if you go down to meetings. Last fiscal year, we had 2,500, and then we lost 500 off that, dropped it down to 2,000. So again, other than that, I'm level funded. Actually, I'm $500 under on my operating expense from last year, and the only other increase would be again the COLA, which is reflected on the labor items.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just an offset for collections, isn't it? Or do we even need to be concerned about COLA increase this year?
Yep, this is a budget, a regular budget line items.
So it's the electrical and plumbing and gas inspectors that have operated from offset receipts. This is the building commissioner.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So so the finance committee is aware, Richard did put in for the 2% COLA. The land use clerk, the land use and inspections clerk position did have a market adjustment. That is an adjustment beyond the $617 shown here. So that amount has been put into the working budget document under the TA recommended column. So you can see that that adjustment there. Richard, do you have anything to add on behalf of electrical or plumbing and gas, or are they pretty much straightforward?
We can talk about this. If there's no more questions on mine, we can talk about this. I have those with me as well. They are relatively straightforward, but I can explain them out a little bit if anybody has any questions for them.
Stan, what do you want to do?
I'm sorry. I'm just being a little dense. Isn't there an offset for building permits too? Don't we have?
No, not on the building permit. It's only plumbing, wiring, and gas.
So where does the building permit money go, June?
That goes into the general fund local receipts.
Okay. Yeah, if we can, I'd like to go through plumbing and electric, although again, it is just an offset, isn't it?
Those are offset receipts, but I think June and Richard can probably explain the slight differences in the coming year.
Yeah, so which one we got up there? 242. That's so 242 is plumbing and gas. And one of the things we'd like to propose, and we're going to try to go to, is rather than doing offset receipts, is go to a revolving fund. Because with the offset receipts, what's going on is every year, permits are pulled practically every day all year long. So we get to the end of a fiscal year, then all those permits that have not been, the offset receipts have not been paid to the inspector has to get allocated and incumbent to move forward. So it's become very tedious amount of paperwork for my administrator, along with Amy, June's administrator. So we feel that going to a revolving fund will help eliminate that portion. So again, it's a different method. So all the fees collected for the plumbing, gas, and wiring would go into revolving fund, and then they would draw their pay out of that as they complete their work. So Another thing we're trying to do to streamline the processes right now, what we've been doing with those inspectors is on large project, and a large project could be something as simple as a house. The once the fee is brought in, then we utilize and figured that it's going to take about 10 months for that project to be completed, and so then they get 1/10 of their percentage of the fee every month. And again, it creates a lot of spreadsheets to try and keep track of that. So we're feeling that going to the revolving fund, it's going to eliminate carrying all that money forward every year, trying to figure out which permits haven't been paid out to the inspectors, their fees. And then what we also want to take and rather than break the payments out into such small increments, they would get paid once the rough inspection is done, and then the balance when the final inspection is done. So it's a form of streamlining, trying to get more efficient with what we do and how we do it. So you can see that for the revolving fund, we don't know any given time how much money they will bring in on projects. So we're using 75,000 as a hypothetical. And then if you follow down on this particular one for plumbing and gas.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Plumbing and gas, that they're level funded on their basic expenses on his. He's got a little bit of dues that for his monthly meetings for being a plumbing inspector, and just a little bit extra for meetings. So that should cover him for the year.
June, do you have any concerns about it being a revolving fund instead of an offset, or is this beneficial to you, or?
Absolutely not. We so want this to go to revolving.
Okay.
You'll actually see a new special article to create the revolving fund, because we need to do that once. And then you'll see it along with the other revolving funds, like the 1870 town hall. And the library, I think, also still has an open revolving fund. So we'll just have to vote the dollar amount at town meeting in the next year after we actually establish it. So the money will be there. We'll just automatically put the money into the revolving fund, and hopefully, if all goes well, we'll have less tracking to do. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier.
So this will, okay, so this will bring a couple of changes then to the working budget spreadsheet, where we're not using offset receipts anymore, and it's completely being funded through the revolving fund. These lines are coming off the
Only the
expense.
payroll, the expense line will be there.
Okay, so the expense line is not going to be funded through the reserve fund. Okay, thank you.
Because the other 5% of the collections will be going into the general fund.
Yes, my question is, kind of what was why did it take so long to decide to go to a revolving fund? I mean, what was the drawbacks of doing this, years ago?
I don't really know. I know it wasn't until just recently that you could do payroll out of a revolving fund.
Okay.
But I think that was pretty much the only reason behind it.
That was like a state change that allowed that?
Yes.
Okay.
The Municipal Modernization Act allowed some of those changes a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the other factor into that is, again, we're in the process of hiring a new wire inspector, because unfortunately Henry Wheeler passed away, and we really wanted to look into, can we do something better? Is there a better way of doing what we're already doing that streamlines things and makes it more efficient for everybody involved? So again, the example I gave, that just on a single family house, that their payments were getting divided out by 10 months, and the spreadsheets that Leanne, my administrator, was doing, and then Amy and an accountant was doing to verify and check. It was getting daunting. We felt it was just getting to be excessive and a waste of time. So we had a lot of meetings between Margaret, June, and myself, and then we brought Amy and Leanne into the mix, because they're the ones that do the work. So we collectively come to the determination that this will be a lot better in the long run, a lot simpler for everybody involved. And that's our story, and that's what we're trying to go with here.
Yeah, I don't understand the mechanics of why it's easier, but if the people who are doing it say it's easier, it works for me.
That's our goal.
It's going to work so much better for Amy and Leanne. I mean, the amount of work each of them have done and the duplication of work, the unnecessary duplication of work is going to be eliminated. And that's going to be a great change for them.
Good.
So that was plumbing and gas. Okay, unless there's any questions you want to look at wiring.
He does this.
Sure.
Hey, they can hear you.
Yeah, we better.
Okay, so this is I think this is wiring. Yep, this is wiring.
So the same holds true on this. You'll see that there's more expenditure money. Last year, I don't believe they spent the $600, but this year, actually in January or February of 23, the wire inspector will have a new code out, so it's mandated that they go to a new code update training and a new book. So that's why there's more expense money than there was for the plumbing and gas inspector. So typically, what I try to do, and I'm relatively new to Berlin, but my other community what I worked in is that I would try to follow those two professions to find out when they have their training and just ramp them up for that 1 year. So again, this budget is going to reflect that he's got coverage in there to pay for this mandatory training that will come up in January, February of 23, which will be this budget we're working on now, and to cover the code book. So next year, this will probably get flipped. That again, his expense will drop, but plumbing and gas will probably go up. Because I think that the following budget year will be the year that the plumbing inspector is going to have his mandatory training and new code book.
All right, seems pretty straightforward to me.
What I did not catch on this is if we can change the wiring to electrical. We want to use
Sure.
all the same name.
At this point, it's a matter of preference. So make the decision. What do you want?
Yep. We're going to call them electrical all the way
We're going to
through.
call electrical. Okay.
Electrical.
Sparky's out of it. I'm not going to call him Sparky. He's going to be electrical.
Sparky's out.
And
Go ahead.
again, we're going to be moving this one here to revolving also for the payroll. The expenses will be left as a line item. And one of the other good issues about changing this over into a revolving, where if we wind up bringing in more than the 75,000 that is needed, we just need to go to the selectmen to have them approve an increase in the line, so that does not affect the budget and it does not create a deficit that needs to be raised at any point. So that's the other good thing about the revolving, because they can't have it unless the money is physically there. Where
And
the
that's
old
just-
one, yeah, the old one,
that's
we would
just-
have to raise it on the recap
Yeah.
sheet, so.
Not having to estimate future revenues is going to be, I know we'll be doing it when we establish the expenditure limits, but not having to anticipate those revenues is going to be great.
All right, well, I'm good. How about everybody else?
Sounds good to me, Stan.
Yeah, me too. I'm having major computer problems all of a sudden, but I'm listening.
Well, my problems is my hair's a mess. That's why I'm not on video. I was wearing a cap.
Hey, Stan, what is new? Come on.
Well, you tell me my hair is usually a mess? What the heck, Mary?
No, it's never a mess. Come on.
Oh, telling you.
The next few days are hat day anyway, so
Yeah.
it's hat hair day.
Hat hair day. Oh, stocking cap though is far worse than hat day. Baseball hat day.
Thanks, Richard. Nice seeing
Thanks,
you
Richard.
Thank you.
I'm simple.
again.
We'd never say that as far as you know.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
good luck
Richard.
with the rest of your night.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good
night.
night.
See you.
And Fred Cummings is next with his.
Actually, Board of Health is coming up next.
Oh,
Yeah, I
are
was gonna
they?
say, I think,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're not here yet, though.
I don't know if Fred is online or not. I know he was looking for the link, but if he's there.
Here he is.
I'm here,
He's here.
Alrighty.
but I can wait.
I don't, the Board of Health's not here quite yet. Well,
I think Fred should go ahead.
okay.
All right.
So Fred, we're gonna start you with we're gonna go in order chronologically, numerically with your accounts. And so we'll start with the building maintenance budget request. So I'm gonna go ahead and screen share the revised building maintenance budget request. Okay.
You got a big screen. Okay. Yeah, as you can tell, is this the one? 108? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one for this one actually went up quite a bit because some of the things that I had to include on it was the fire alarm testings that had to be done at the 1870, now at the Bullard House and the library. I don't have a copy of last year's paper with me to see which one of them. The municipal center has always been on it. So those were added along with the generator contracts. We never had one here in the highway garage and we've been here almost 4 years. The one for the 1870 had always been on, I guess, in the past. And then when the police dispatch left there, they shut everything down, disconnected it. And then as it became online, the building itself, it was never put on again for a service contract. And I don't recall you guys having a copy of the contracts because I just found it in my folder. So I don't think I turned those in yet. So you may not have that. A couple other things that I had to add into it is the new PFAS water testing that we're actually going to be due for. I believe it's August. They're starting in our town. And that could be $2,000 per water test per well. And we just have two. We do the library and the municipal center. A few of the other things that had to be added in were also the fire alarm monitoring contracts, because again, we didn't have a few that we should have had right along. I wish I had last year's copy with me.
Oh, that's okay, Fred, I think.
Yeah, because I think you've got it compared on the detail page that you put in there. It shows the differences in the amounts, what was budgeted last year versus what this year's were individually on your sheet.
Yeah, because I know last year's sheet really only had one line, and we actually broke everything down this year for the library, 103 Carter.
Actually,
the
Go
1870.
down, Margaret.
Yep.
Yep, there
I
you
have
go.
to go back past these sideways sheets here.
There you
Here we go.
Right there.
Here we go.
That's the one. So those were the things that went up, along with the water testing and our elevator service contracts, because when those are up for renewal, the elevator service contract is actually going to go up to 3%, but they won't know right away. So I did figure for that, as well as the water testing. That can go up anywhere from 2 to 7%, depending on what the market is at that time. But that's not going to happen up until August of 2022. So I won't know the actual cost for that. And then along with our fire alarm testing, our contracts for those will actually go up. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Hey, Fred, who do you use for water testing, by the way?
We use Whitewater for all our testing, and they actually do our backflow prevention testing as well. At one time, Berlin did have a water operator, but he left and went to Lancaster DPW, and now he's with the fire department. And they've actually been a big help, excuse me, because when I first found out about the PFAS testing, the state was like all over it. And they were like sending demand things out saying we weren't in compliance. But a few days later, they sent out a corrected notice saying we were exempt from what it was they were demanding. So that was really good. And another thing that's gone up is our cleaning service for the 1870. That actually started this month. That only went up just a few dollars. We actually broke it down by the day, and it's less than $4 a day that they went up. And he was really apologetic about it, but since they started, they had not increased their fees for that place. Originally, I left out the carpet cleaning and the floor waxing because it really kind of threw the budget way over. And I was really kind of embarrassed about it. But speaking with David Moore, the gentleman from the cleaning company, they do recommend doing it every 2 years. And this year would be the year that they would get repolished, recleaned, along with the stairs. And that's just for the municipal center itself. Right now, they are taking care of the library for us while we're still in transition to getting an employee for it. And by doing that, excuse me, they just deducted 1 day from the municipal center and took on the responsibility of the other 2. And then to try to cut things, in the past, they had bark mulch and other things in it that we took out, which is a good thing because we just learned about this fungus that's in the mulch that's really bad. So we're actually going to try to do something different down there with stonework instead.
It's called artillery fungus. If anyone wants to look it up, don't park near the bark mulch.
And if anybody wants to see what it looks like stuck to a car, it's permanently on mine.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty gross. So that's pretty much where the added amounts came from for the municipal buildings, which is really why it threw it way over what it should have been.
Fred, do you want me to move on to electricity and heating oil then, or do you have more?
Actually, I'm not sure much about the electricity or heating because that
Okay.
wasn't included in anything. So I don't even know what we actually spend on that stuff every year.
Oh, June tracks that, so she can.
Actually, Amy tracks that, so I
Amy.
can't take credit for it. I'd like to, but I can't.
So, well, electricity is proposed to be level funded in the next year.
Actually, I think we left it level funded for right now.
Mhm.
And we are still in the right now we get energy credits to the electric bill. This has been an ongoing thing now for a little over a year, maybe a little bit more than that. Unfortunately, we're still working out some of the bugs on where the credits should be going and making sure that they're on the correct bills. So we left it level funded. And at this point in time, we seem to be, for some reason, I have a note on here about the oil and that doesn't have anything to do with the oil. I think it's pretty much just the credits. The only thing is we don't want to cut this down too much because last year, the winter, I believe, was a little bit warmer. So we didn't have to use quite as much electricity down at the highway barn. And I think that made it so that it made me a little bit nervous if we were going to actually cut this down a little bit. I mean, if we had to, we could, but that's pretty much the
We'll
story.
keep that
on
in
why
our
we-
back pocket for later.
Pretty much, yes. I mean, if we had to relook at it, we probably could. I just don't want to cut it too low because if it gets really cold, then, and depending on what the electric costs are, is what we'll wind up paying there.
And then there's fuel oil.
And then there's fuel oil. So what we did is we took an average of approximately how many gallons that we actually used and what the cost of the oil's been over the past few years. And we guesstimated that if the oil went to $3.29 a gallon, that we would need approximately 58,562. And that was based on what the oil was back in November. So I haven't given a new check on that. So that's where the dollar amount came from.
And we seek our quotes for heating oil in the spring prior to the start of the fiscal year. So it's typically not in the coldest season. We try to hit it while the oil prices tend to be a little bit lower to get us the lowest fixed price possible for the coming year. So, but they are just generally higher now.
Are we buying contract for the season? Is that how we do it?
Yes, for the year, Mary, for the fiscal year.
For the year, right, right.
Yep, yep. That's how we do it.
Yeah,
And we
now
also,
just-
the way it's worked for us, at least since I've been in Berlin, is that we also seek quotes for the service, the oil burner service for our buildings. So that's kind of a separate quote that they also provide us. And that, June, that's paid out of this account too, isn't it?
No, the services
Or is
actually
that-
come out of part of the municipal building.
Okay, the expense line, okay.
And
Okay.
just so that you know, this current year that we're in now, fiscal 22, our contract rate was $2.40 is what we were paying. So we assume that it could go up, but I have to say over the past couple of years with Northborough Oil, it's been really good as far as the price that they've given us.
Yeah, we use them at church too, and they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. In fact, this past year, there were some companies that just simply wouldn't give us a quote. They wouldn't give us a fixed price quote. So we were lucky. All right, want to move on to the highway. Sorry, I have to get on my scroll. Here we go. Down to highway. Here we go. Okay, here's highway.
So for the highway budget, I was able to keep it what it was the previous year. What I did was I just moved some of the funds around into the line items that I know we're definitely going to need the extra money into. Like the framing grates, we have actual framing grates in stock that we don't plan on using as much as what was originally here for. So I wish I had my scratched up sheet. So that one I actually moved. I think that got moved into the drainage pipe because there is drainage work that we do have
Keep going.
an idea for.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry.
Keep going. Should be there.
I'm going. I'm going. Go. Oh, no.
Oh, nope. It was with his original budget. This is his
Oh.
revised one.
Oh, I can go in the original one for the expenses. Yeah, it's still up here, so I can go in. I can go into it.
The dollar didn't change on that. It was just the wages.
Still
So.
thinking. Oh, yes. This one is the one with all the contracts. You were so thorough. Here we
Right
go,
there.
Fred.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one. And then another one that I ended up changing was the coal patch one. I believe in the previous one, it was like 20 something tons. There is absolutely no way we would put out that much in coal patch because we have a box that was purchased years ago that we can actually go and get hot top that we use for patching potholes instead because it stays longer. So I did cut that down and I didn't request as much money for that. And again, that got moved, I think, into the bridge and the guardrail maintenance line because we do have work planned for that as well. So that one got changed. The stump grinder one, I did add in one extra day because right now we can only get 4 days out of it. And just in the past 2 months, we've already expended what we had for this year's budget on stump grinding, and we're not even done yet. If we had that extra day, then we would have finished everything. But that was just on the stumps that Stanley Tree had cut down for us. We wouldn't ever cut that many in a season. But I did add one more day into that. So we never really went over the budget for that one. Tires got cut down because I went through and there's only one truck that really needs tires this year, or for the next year for it. And everything else stayed the same for that. The only other thing that really changed was our payroll stuff, because we are looking to add an employee for the custodian. Sorry.
You eliminated the building maintenance payroll in order to do this combined position.
Yes, that was 19,000. Actually, I even deleted it from that paper. But yeah, I believe it was around 19,000 that came from the part-time building department to help fund the new position of the custodian driver laborer. And I believe there was another, cemetery. I believe there was funds from a cemetery employee that also was going towards the funding for this position.
16,000.
Yes. And then there's also, was added in for an admin assistant. That was 20 hours a week or figured for 20 hours a week. That came to 10,858. So that's where that one came from for the hourly employees. The salary range stayed the same. The part-time wages, I believe, stayed the same. And full-time. Our full-time went up because of the COA.
The full-time also, yes, the full-time also had two positions that were far below market rate. And so the two positions, the laborer driver and the heavy maintenance, the heavy machinery equipment operator, driver laborer, those two positions have had market adjustments. So that's factored in here as well. Oh, no, it's not. Is this June, is that?
Yeah, I believe he actually revised his, yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, so that's factored in here as well. All right.
And, I just want to make a little bit of a correction that the part-time wage for the administrative assistant is actually for 10 hours a week, not 20, because that's, yeah, just wanted to throw that in there.
All right, yeah, because on my slip, we didn't even put in the hours because at the time we weren't sure.
Correct. So you did 520 hours is what we put in for, which would come out to 10 hours a week, give or take a few.
Okay.
But it's not Amy.
Unfortunately, no. But there's still hope. She might come our way.
No.
She might. I can entice her.
Stop it.
Does anybody have any questions on this before we move on to snow and ice? Okay.
Yeah, I just was curious as to what the additional duties are that are requiring an additional person.
Well, what happened was we did have a guy that worked part-time that took care of the custodian duties at the 1870 and the library. And he had some issues, so he had to leave. So we're actually just backfilling his position. And then with his remaining time, he's going to work with the highway department because now the cemeteries were given to us in July. So we're hoping that he could also act as a cemetery employee to help out with those.
Plus, he's also going to be on the crew doing the tree work and the road work and everything else to assist in those ways too, right?
And also there's no added cost for benefits because the custodian did have benefits at the time. So it's not going to add any cost there.
Well, I mean, backfilling to me doesn't necessitate 54,000 extra dollars in part-time wages. So it seems like there's more than just backfilling a position.
Yeah, this would actually be creating a position that would,
That's what I was getting at.
yeah.
Was what
Yeah,
are we
so-
creating a position for? What are the duties?
Well, we have it listed as the custodian driver laborer. So he would primarily be split with the hours that Steve had committed already for the custodial duties, and then we would have for the remaining time.
And then is there any corresponding deduction in the cemetery, Margaret?
Yeah, so $16,000 came over from cemeteries. And that happened last year. That happened with the current year's budget. And then, so that is reflected partly under part-time wages, but with the highway admin assistant, the 10 hours a week, that reduces the reduction in the part-time wages line. The other reduction is the 19,000, I think it's 19,300 something dollars with the elimination of the part-time building maintenance position. So
Margaret,
that's also.
Can you just bring up that
Building maintenance?
yes, please.
Yeah. So that's been zeroed out.
Right, but we're still $54,000 higher. With money coming from the cemetery, with closing that out, we're still $54,000 higher than we were.
So am I understanding correctly, Margaret, Fred, that we've kind of combined two part-time jobs into one from cemetery, one?
You have, and the total of those two would essentially be 36,000. Was it about $36,000 of that 54? So if you combine those two, that's what that would be. With the net reduction in part-time wages of $5,000 something dollars, that would come up to a little over $40,000, and the market adjustments do contribute. The market adjustments do contribute to the increase in full-time wages here. So with the laborer driver and the heavy equipment motor operator market adjustments, that's adding to the increase there.
Yeah, and I think I'm remembering correctly that last year when we were talking about highway, we had sort of two openings, right? And so Stan,
Yeah.
I think I hear you, Stan, and the concern is always, are we expanding the empire? And I think that's not the case here, but it's a little hard to follow the change because they're complicated.
Yeah,
Okay, we had done the savings on the cemetery last year, and so it seemed we can't count that as savings this year. I mean,
we can't. Right, we can't count that as savings this year. That was something that was
so
put
that's
on.
not,
Yeah, that's not reflected this year. That was reflected last year. The highway department has just taken on cemetery maintenance. So that is something that they are doing in addition to their other duties. I also want to add, and I know I've mentioned this before, that the highway department could potentially be the only department in town that has not had any change to staffing levels in more than 20 years, and an awful lot has happened with road infrastructure, facilities, and things like that in the past 20 years. In fact, 20 years ago, facilities weren't even under the official jurisdiction of the highway department. I think there was kind of something informal. It was only recently that buildings came under the highway department's jurisdiction. So I have to say, you know, I recognize that this is a net increase. This is an increase in of less than 0.5 FTEs in the position, given this switch between building maintenance and highway. But to increase it by that, by only that in the past 20 years, given the growth in town and the responsibilities of the department, I think is a responsible way to go in order to address our town's infrastructure, road, grounds, and facilities needs.
And also, Paul McKelk reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and just food for thought, he wanted me to start thinking about at some point, the Board of Health is going to want the highway to start doing the work at the transfer station. In the sense of just boots on the ground, nothing to do with budgeting or payroll or anything like that. So we're going to have a guy 2 days a week and a day on the weekend to try and fill.
And the idea with that is essentially cross-training and providing more flexibility to the department to allow so that transfer station employees will have a skill set that could help the highway department and vice versa, rather than having two separate departments where there's no interchangeability of staff.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions or concerns?
No.
The question just on regarding that with the Board of Health, is that something because you're expecting some like retirement or changeover or something in the future that make that change, or what's the transition you're thinking of? What is there something necessitating that?
Actually, that was brought on by the Board of Health. That wasn't something we offered up.
Okay.
He approached me and
and-
said, you know, you should think about in the future, this could happen.
This is a very, very common practice in other small and larger towns where the transfer station is under the operational jurisdiction of the highway departments or DPW. In this case, I think our Board of Health would want to maintain responsibility as far as policy and contracts and things of that nature, whereas highway would just be charged with staffing and assuring there's coverage at the transfer station.
And I think it had to
So
do with
it's
a
I
lot.
think it's intended, yeah, it's intended to be a cooperative effort.
It was also so that way the elected board didn't have to, I don't want to say put in all the time that they do sometimes with dealing with issues. This way here, it would be on a daily basis. Somebody would be around. It would be a little bit easier to, I think, on as far as management.
Scott, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Then jump down to snow and ice. Okay, Fred, snow and ice is up.
Okay. Snow and ice, I believe we kept the same, with the exception of the wages, that went up. And that too was because we had one person with a grade change, so that increased it. And then again, we added for the custodian position to be put in there as well. The good thing, I think, that kind of saves on a little bit of both payrolls is that when they backfill from my position, it's not at the same grade as what I was at. So it does lessen it a little bit. But we kept the expenses, I believe we kept them the same.
Yeah.
I don't know in the past how often, or I know every year it's expended. I don't know how much it goes up every year or how much they always overexpend.
On Monday night, the select board made a slight change to expenses, understanding that this is usually, especially with the price of salt, this is usually spent, fully expended by the end of the season. So they made a small change. So Finance Committee, this is subject to small changes in the next short period of time.
Doesn't
And
if
Fred
you
and
go to
June
the
all-
very,
Oh,
don't
go
you go to the
ahead.
very end? Does it show you what's expended from the expense? If you scroll all the way down to the last
Yes,
sheet.
yes. Yes, you
You
can
have
see
the
the
full
detail
history.
there. Yeah. Yeah. That's the, yeah, the budget history tells the story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the last page, page 4.
Okay. Oops, I'm gonna just go on. There you
While
go.
Margaret's scrolling, I also want to point out that Fred did do a little bit of work on this as far as making sure that the wages were proper.
I don't think we have that one. Yeah, I
So
don't have
last
it.
year we actually, so last year was actually a very low number for,
Don't get this one, Fred, sorry. Don't go looking for it, you don't have it.
All right. Yeah, last year was actually a mild year. It was the La Nina year, which is projected for this year. We were kind of hoping to make it through like we did last year. Last year we did only have one big storm, so hopefully this weekend will be our one big storm.
I'm with you on that one, Fred.
Yeah.
Were they expecting a foot of snow? Is that
Yeah,
what it is?
well, what I heard around here was 8 to 12.
Yeah.
But if that thing were to shift in a little bit, then we could get 12 plus.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
You know, it
Can
wouldn't be
you-
bad.
Janet's back in the audience. Can you? promote her to
Oh,
panel?
okay. All right, I'll go in. Oh, I'm gonna have to stop sharing here for a minute so I can manage this.
Thank you.
Okay.
On to look at that expense sheet, you can see where we had we had snowy winters. You can pick it right out.
Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
2015, you know, that was,
Yep. That was a biggie.
yeah.
That was the bomb cyclone year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was a big season.
Yeah, that was records. It was because it all came in a very short window of time, and it just kept snowing and snowing.
Yeah, that was like the nor'easter every weekend.
There was an image of some guy in Boston wearing bathing shorts, standing on the railing of a porch, like and doing a swan dive into the snow. That was that winter.
Was that also the one that we had the ice storm really late in the year too? I don't remember which one that you were there. That
Could
was.
have been. Yeah.
They're all a blur.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on this one here? Snow and ice.
No, I'm good.
Okay. I do not see Board of Health here.
Maybe they got confused.
You don't suppose they're sitting over at Town Hall, do you?
Oh, I don't think so.
I almost was. June
You
6th.
almost were?
Yeah.
Oh. Well. I don't know, Fred, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I'm sure I'm missing something. Other than probably for the next round of the budget, we are going to have more part-time drivers because we actually have more now, which really I don't think is going to be that bad because we don't have to call them all in at the same time. So the chance of expending that would be slim to none.
Fred, is that a contract expense? Is that for snow? Is that what you mean?
Nope, it's just for we have part-time drivers right now listed on this page. At the time of putting this together, we only had two.
I see.
One of them is a loader operator, and the other one is one of our CDL drivers. But just in the past few weeks, we actually were able to get 3 more Class D drivers, pickup truck drivers, to put in the equipment. But right now on this list, all we had was just 2 of them for the payroll department.
So that's just, that's reflected in part-time wages? Is that where you would see that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I'd go over it if I could find it.
No, that's all right. I'm
Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Yeah, so the snow and ice one, we just have 2 of them listed under part-time. Both as CDL drivers, because we don't have a grade just for an operator. So one of them is actually just getting paid as a truck driver. And those costs, those rates actually went up this year, which raised the payroll budget for that. But other than that, I think I have it all. Unless you guys can think of something. Did I forget something?
Fred, I think you did really well on your first budget.
You did a nice job.
Are there
Nice
are
job.
there capital requests for highway?
Yeah, Fred, want to touch on the 2 capital requests you've got?
Yeah, so I have those here too.
I might be
So
able to-
one of the things we're going for is the one that it's usually done every year, which is the hot top. That one there we put in for it again because it had a sunset clause originally, I think. So that's why we put in for that one. Another one we put in for was to replace our 2006 one-ton dump truck. That one's really starting to show its age. It's definitely lived its life cycle. That is actually shared between us and the cemetery. So when they need to do a burial, the gentleman will come and get that, and that's what they'll put the dirt into before and after. And so he'll use that as well.
These are some of your photos here.
Yeah, so that photo right there actually shows the rear main seal. The oil seal is leaking. And to do that, you actually have to split the motor and the transmission apart. And that's something that we don't do in-house because we don't have the equipment for it. There was a quote for it. I believe it was around $1,300 or $1,400 for that repair. And one of the
And
other
this-
pictures I sent.
This one?
Yeah, that's actually one of the cab mounts. And right now it's actually gone through. So you can actually put your fist almost through it now.
Yeah, that looks fine.
Just
We
don't hit a
refer
bump.
we refer to this as the Fred Flintstone
That's
car
right.
in capital
That's
planning
right.
because
Yeah.
they're putting their feet through it just to keep it
Exactly.
moving.
Well,
Yeah.
we were gonna
Worked
fill it with
fine for him, it
expandifoam.
worked fine for us.
Mhm.
We were gonna just fill it with expandifoam.
That'd be cool.
It would fill the void, and that would take care
Put a
of
license plate over it, it'll be fine.
it.
Sorry, is that it? Yeah.
Okay, so for a correction of that, so it was a $3,500 to have that repair done for that. And one of the other issues, we haven't had problems with it yet, was the transfer case, because for every, you're going forward plowing with it and everything, the transfer case is getting the same wear and tear, the transmission as well. And in time, that's one of the trucks that we will have to do tires on and brakes. Hopefully, we don't have to do that until we get rid of it, because the tires alone is going to run over $1,000 because there's 6 matching tires. So that's going to be an expensive fix. So we're still using it today. We're just using it minimally. That's kind of like the local girl. She doesn't leave town very often. So the estimate that we got, I don't know if everyone has a copy of the estimate for the truck.
Everyone has access to the capital planning committee and fixed assets folder in the Google Drive, so.
Okay. I was shocked when I saw the quote for it because I've never purchased a truck new. So I was really shocked, but it came in at $79,560, 60 cents to replace the one we have, and that's with the plow and the bare minimum of what we needed for it, which was shocking. And that was through McGovern on the municipal one. And that is good, I believe he said, for a year from the date that we got it for it.
The estimate is good for that, for a year.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And you'd be disposing of the old one, correct, Fred?
Yes, yes, that would find its way to municipal bid.
That can be a police vehicle or a fire in the woods vehicle or.
I
No.
thought you wanted it, Stan.
I do want it. That's why I want to make sure it's not going to those individuals.
You can plant flowers in it.
We have other equipment you might be interested in, like a sweeper or a loader. Something with fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I believe there was another one we put in for the bridge.
The
stuff for
bridge, yeah.
If I can pull them apart. Yeah, so the bridge one, it's actually, I can give you the bridge number. It's not that it means anything. It's B09001. It's the, if you're going down South Street.
Actually,
it
I might
is
be able to
the-
share this one too, Fred. I'll try.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yes,
I wish you
can.
could see the pictures because they speak volume.
I don't think you should share pictures of the bridge, Fred.
Okay.
Well, here they come. Here they
Oh,
come.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
Here
So-
come. There we go. Okay.
So
did-
this
this
is
is
the
not-
underside.
Sorry.
So this is the underside. So the bridge in question, if you head down South Street from the elementary school, it's going to be the second water crossing, basically the one right on the very corner. The bridge was built in 1900 and refurbished or rebuilt in 1975. If you take a look at the picture here in photo 1, the right-hand side of the picture, you can actually see the section loss that goes through. You can see the steel decking through it. Yeah, right just above where the cursor was.
Right there.
Yes, right there. So that's 100% section loss. And there's actually a couple of the spots that have that. And on the main carry beam is, if you go down to a couple of the other pictures,
Mhm. Not that one. This one. This one?
um,
Next one?
nope, actually that one right there. So right about in the middle of your picture, you can
Right here?
see, yep, another one of the cross ones, just to the left of the cursor. You'll see, yep, now go back to the right. Yep, actually right there. So that
Oh,
right
that's-
there, that's another 100% section loss. And if you go on the bridge now, you can actually see the divot in the middle around the yellow line. This section loss here is what's causing it. But from what I've been told, they don't expect it to fall down like right away. It's not really at that point. But the bridge rating itself,
Encouraging.
yeah. The bridge rating isn't down to the 2-3. When it gets that low, they close the bridge for you. They basically say you're done. But we're not at that point yet, and we hope not to be. But if you go, actually, it might be this picture as well. If you can zoom in a little bit more,
Oh, sure.
we'll look around number 7, number 8.
Right here?
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Might be
right
there.
in between is a black dot, right below the 8. Is that where
Yeah.
you're looking?
Let me pull my picture out so I can see a little better. I'll be able to tell you better. Because the beams themselves do have section loss too.
Oh, is it this right here? Is it right here? Maybe that's it right there. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Well, MassDOT has classified it as a problem. I know that's not the
Yes,
that's
actually,
not the engineering term.
a close-up is if you want to go to photo number 6,
Photos,
There's,
okay, photo 6.
there's another, this is a different one than photo 3. So there it is right there. That's another different one
Oh, right here.
that
Wow.
has the section loss.
Yep.
And then photo 7 actually shows the one in the beam itself. There's
You know-
actually 2 of them.
Yeah.
right
Oh, look at that.
Wow, look at that. Yeah. This
there.
is all that salt we're putting on it, you know?
Yes. And this is actually, I went back and started looking at all the bridge reports. So it started like back in 2014 with just like that 3/4 hole and everything's just gotten obviously larger and larger. Which is
Fred,
tough because, yes.
I'm sorry, do we have a calcium truck in town? Because it's probably more the calcium than the salt.
Well, I do know, I do know one company that has a spray rig, but it's not used on our municipal road.
We're not plowing or sanding this year, so we don't have anything.
I know, so you never know. I might be calling him to be a CDL driver. So that's what the bridge is. We don't have a cost for it yet. We're still waiting for the quote to come back for the design and engineering. And it shouldn't be that much longer before we get it. So hopefully we'll know more. But the projected timeline for it is maybe a fall of 2023 construction start. And the idea is, if you scroll down some more, you'll actually see the foundation walls.
Right.
Now, is that all on us, Fred, since it's not a state route? I mean, there's no state money for this too, right?
Actually, we're trying to put in for the small bridge grant, because if the bridge falls under 20 feet, you can apply for a bridge grant, and that's up to $500,000 for construction costs. They're hoping that actually the walls here, just from her quick visual, believes they're sturdy enough and will take just a rebuild. Because you can see at the very top, when it was redone, they just took the top layer of stones off, capped it with concrete, and that's what they set their bridge joints on. So they're hoping to do a similar thing, because the only other option that I suggested would be a box culvert, because it's less maintenance, like longevity, but then there's a lot more labor intensive. So you're getting into more of the environmental impact of the actual work. So they're really trying to keep it just the structure on top for replacement.
There's going to be, Fred, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure funding that's potentially coming our way, maybe.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of money out there nowadays. I just got another email for culvert stuff as well, that's coming out. And it's weird because the different emails you get all have different amounts. So I'm not really sure who to go with. But everybody seems to want your business. With the culvert ones, the most recent one I actually looked into was through DER, which is more of the environmental one. You do have to meet like requirements for it. Like you submit your interest and they determine whether or not it's going to be beneficial for the fish coming upstream, the crayfish, things like that. And then they'll actually do a webinar with everyone that put in an interest letter, and then you find out more about it. I don't know how much is coming out for the infrastructure as to what each town is going to be getting. After seeing the news today with another bridge that failed somewhere else, I'm sure the state may keep more of it now.
Margaret, would any of this grant money for Safe Routes to Town fall on that road? I know I was at a Safe Routes to Town, Safe Routes to School meeting today, and they were talking about all sorts of grants that are out there and available.
Yeah, so the Safe Routes to Schools, we've tried for the Safe Routes to Schools grant before. It is possible. I don't know if it would fall. I don't know if this particular thing would fall under it, but for example, the sidewalks that lead to the school and things like that could potentially do that. Now, one thing that we really have to start working on is committing funding to design and engineering for some of our projects, because when this infrastructure money comes through, some of it is going to cover design engineering and construction. Some of it may only cover construction costs. And our board, the select board, just had a conversation on Monday night and a coffee talk before that, and at their meeting prior to that, that with the ARPA funds that the town has received, this would be a good chance for us to actually commit some funds to design engineering work that could lead to us having shovel-ready projects for grant funding. So this is something the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee is also talking about. So things like that, Janet, if we could start working on design engineering and getting some shovel-ready projects together, that would put us in a really good position.
That's what they were talking about today, is trying to get the towns working together in committees together with not just a municipality land, but actual like private property loans and easements. And it was a very, very interesting topic today, because it talked all about infrastructure in roads and sidewalks and different things like that. It was very interesting.
All of this is happening to prepare municipalities and other entities for the infrastructure money that's coming. I remember when Fred and I first, before we met with the engineers, and Fred's like, oh no, we just missed the small grant program, the small bridge grant program. And I said, no, don't fear, there's more money coming. So we just need to stay on it and prepare to get those funds.
Would that money, Margaret, be would that be just a regular line item budget money, or would that go into capital planning line? I'm just trying to figure out where
for
you want to
design
put
engineering.
that. Yeah.
I think on a long-term basis, we'd probably want to do something in the operating budget, but
Yeah,
to
okay.
at least get us started, if we can identify some really high priority projects and put our energy into those, our energy and money into those to get some of the pre-work done, then we're going to be able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So it just,
Who drives picking those projects? Does that involve talking across to town, or, I mean,
I think MassDOT drives a lot of it, but Fred could probably speak more to that.
Yeah, well, like some of the ones like the sidewalk ones, things like that, a lot of it, I think, really comes from the town. We know that they need to be done. There's just so much into it that we could do on our own to save costs as it goes. We have culverts. There's actually one culvert that it does need to be repaired. There's section loss in the tubes as well, but it's not to the point where it's going to fail. But that one there, I did mention to our engineers that within the next couple of years, that's something that we're going to need to address, along with one other one on Pleasant Street. That too, it's not to the point where it's going to fail, but soon it's going to have to be done. We can do a lot of the construction work ourselves. It's the design and engineering part that they'll have to have done.
And Fred's developed a pretty good working relationship so far with VHB, the engineering firm. In fact, the bridge engineer he's been working with was actually instrumental in working with MassDOT on the small bridge grant program. So she's very well versed on that. But you know, Julie, to your point, the grant program that Janet was talking about, Safe Routes to Schools, Complete Streets, Mass Work, Small Bridge Grant Program, some of the culvert programs, they all stem from MassDOT. So they are pretty instrumental in this.
Also, Julie, what I understood today, and unfortunately these meetings all occur while I'm still trying to see students in my office, and I get interrupted and have to go on mute and come back and miss a little bit and ask a question to get caught up. To speak to what you were asking, a lot of these projects come up by townspeople looking at something and thinking, how can we fix this and make this better? And they bring it forward. If that answers one of your questions.
well, when I lived in Arlington, we had different groups that worked to help drive things, like there's Livable Streets Boston, or Livable Streets Arlington, that was looking at multimodal. There was somebody who focused totally on walking and pedestrian access, and was had like her own group, very active in paying attention to things like that. And I was just wondering, you know, if somebody wants to do these things, it seems a bit more complicated out here to figure out who you talk to.
Actually, the Safe Routes to Schools people, that particular group is very user friendly, and you pick up the phone and they're super, super great to work with.
Okay. And are they covering it are they just Berlin or are they the?
No, it's a
No.
state program,
State.
and
That's
I
through
actually
MassDOT.
sit on it through the Maynard Public Schools. That's how I got involved in it. And we have a large majority of our students in Maynard that actually do walk to school. And it's kind of heartwarming to go to drive to work in the morning and see, you know, a mother and a father and their 2 children, and they're all holding hands walking to school. And there's quite a few of these families. It's just, it's nice to see. And we have a lot of children that live in the immediate area, but it's, you know, until the sidewalk went from the center to the, you know, the new school, there wasn't really a safe, I walked every day to school and we didn't have a sidewalk, but you know, the traffic is picking up and there's more traffic, and you know, you never had to wait, you know, for 10 cars to go by to cross the street when I was walking to school. It's totally different and changed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Fred, getting back to the particulars on this bridge for this year coming up, the fiscal 23 year. So somebody's going to pay for design and engineering. Is that Berlin? Is that part of our capital planning this year?
Well, we can actually use either ARPA funds or Chapter 90 funds.
Okay,
Design.
so we're looking outside of Berlin for the funding on the design and engineering, and we're
Yeah.
looking to have that done and the bridge maybe worked on in the fall.
Yes.
That's where we
Get
at.
through the grant.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
grant actually, Olivia is one of the engineers, and she sent an email out that the grant application opened today. There are different things about it, which she hasn't read yet. I haven't read yet. So that'll be tomorrow's job, about their criteria and things.
Is that Chapter 90 or is that ARPA?
No, that's neither. That's the bridge grant.
Oh, the bridge grant. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there you go. I was just trying to get the little ducks lined up. What we were doing. I mean, I heard the story on the traffic committee, but I wasn't thinking about it from the finance. I was in shock looking at the pictures. I wasn't thinking about this piece of it.
Unfortunately, it would be nice if they offered this grant up like future years away, because the majority of our bridges do fall under that category. Anything 20 feet and bigger, then the state has to basically redo it at their cost. But the majority of them fall on us. Some of them do need minor repairs, just from like concrete spalling,
Sure.
paint jobs, things like that.
So is River Bridge 20 feet or less? Is it in that category or is it bigger?
I don't have the paper. I did measure it. And actually Mr. Senni reached out to me today because they got their quotes back. So I called him back and I had to leave a voice message for him. So we haven't actually connected with his.
Yeah, I don't want to take you down another rabbit hole. We've done enough of that. I did, by the way, ping Paul McKelk. I think he's going to join us if he's not on.
Oh, there's
He's
people in the
there
audience.
Our attendees.
Thank you.
Sorry, it took
Oh,
so
Paul
much
is
time.
raising his hand. Okay, Paul.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fred, nice
Bye,
job.
Fred.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, Paul's going to be coming in and Sue Regera is going to be coming in.
Go on video.
Sure.
No, Fred just has to remember that he's still online, so behave yourself.
Oh, hang on. Sorry.
Fred, you can stay on. You're welcome to stay. Hi, Paul.
Hello, hello, good evening.
Sue's here somewhere too, I think.
I am here. You don't really need to see me though, do you?
I'm in the same boat. So.
Yeah,
So we'll
you
just
can
look at
talk
Paul.
from underneath the covers, Sue, that's all right.
Look at Paul's pretty face, listen
Yeah,
to my
right.
voice. How's that? Does that work for everyone?
Lovely.
New laptop, by the way, guys, so I apologize for. I don't know why my camera's not coming up. Anyways, just look at Paul. He's the chairman.
Who has the answers?
Where would you
Do you-
all like to start?
Do you want to start with transfer station since that's the first numerically?
Sure.
That's the
Animal.
biggest.
Okay. Here
And
it
the most
comes.
fun.
Okay, and the most fun.
Yeah. Good, Stan, good.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I laid out the wages the way I typically, start on the first page, okay. June changed. It's
I
not
just
a whole lot different than we did last year. And I looked at the numbers, we scrubbed everything down the best we could. And we're crossing our fingers that nothing goes nuts.
So there was a question at the board's
yeah.
meeting, when we were doing, the budget line approvals, they were just wondering, was there any talk about changes in transfer station permit costs? And I neither June nor I thought that you were suggesting any this year, right?
We were not really proposing any new, not a hike in fees, because 2 years ago, we made such a large hike. And it
Mhm.
kind of, we actually did reduce the second vehicle sticker fee. Last year we charged 50. And this year we decided to charge 30. Only because people, we were getting so many calls. And, people trying to people bought fewer stickers. And we're trying to only drive with one vehicle, so our revenues are about as high as last year, even with that little reduction.
And just it's a sidebar, but it relates. We've recently partnered with a company that supports Big Brother, Big Sister to try and divert textiles, shoes, pocketbooks, that sort of thing from the waste stream. And I'm in conversation with an organization called Fresh Start to see what we can do to divert usable furniture that I see getting thrown away at the transfer station. And, at the end of the day, those aren't big things, but we're looking to see where we can reduce volume and maybe a few hauls a year and maybe some disposal fees. Things are in the works, nothing's set in stone there. We're going to be reaching out to the Berlin residents relative to the furniture part for sure. Once we have that situation lined up as well as it can be.
Oh, and also there's a line item for hazardous waste. And we are still searching for a company that will come in using a state rate, and so we could do another hazardous waste day. But a lot of the companies that we've used in the past got out of the business.
That doesn't surprise me, Sue.
And I mean, we know kind of how much we took in the last time we did a hazardous waste. And so we are very mindful to make sure that we get our money's worth. You don't want to hand over $3,700 for 4 cans of paint type things. So. But
Yeah.
we have it in the, if we start getting a ton of calls, then We'll have to try and figure out something, but it's still on our list to try to find a new vendor.
Say, I learned this past summer that Devon's, I think it's DPW there, I don't know, but they have a hazardous waste collection point for household waste kind of thing. And they actually service several towns. I don't know if there's a regional cooperative way to approach this.
We presented that to the town at a town meeting 3 or 4 years ago. There was an initiation fee to join their cooperative. And then it was up to residents to bring their hazardous waste to the Devon's facility.
Right.
And at the time it was, I want to say it was somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 to join. And then there was an annual fee, and then residents also got charged, but that's something we can look at again. But whatever we find out, I'm sure it'll have to go before town meeting once again, but no problem doing the homework.
I can say, living up at Sawyer Hill, we do regular cleanup projects, and I took a bunch of old stuff, like a car trunk full, down to NEDT, I think the name of it is. It's about 40 minutes south of here. And it actually was relatively inexpensive for everything that I brought them. And the only hard part was it was 40-minute drive, but it certainly wasn't several $1,000s.
So
What kind of stuff was it, Julie?
It was, the stuff I was taking was leftovers from construction projects, cleaners, old oil paint and wood. Most of the stuff was at least 10 years old.
Was it just your own material, or was it?
Oh, no. This was stuff from various projects that had been done around the property here. We were just having a major cleanup, and I just said, we had a cleanup weekend, and I just collected everything. As I said, it was a big mix. And then I'm an oil painter, artist. So I have to make sure the pigments that are left over don't go down the drain. And I take stuff there, and sometimes the guy looks at the bag, doesn't even charge me. So, I mean, as I said, that's one point on trying to do this. So.
If you wouldn't mind to email that information to the Board of Health. I'm not familiar with that organization. I mean, logistics or something, it might be more doable for Mosaic than it is on a town-wide basis, but we'd certainly look into it. Because
that's what I'm saying, was that I only have to do this for myself once or twice a year. And it's sometimes, as I said, sometimes it's just to drive down. And if I do have to pay, it's just a few bucks. So it would be nice if the town had hazardous waste, but it doesn't cost me that much, and I don't think it's worth several $1,000s. This is my input on dealing with this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's good to know, Julie, that there's an outlet that people in town can use if they have something they want to dispose.
Yeah, but I'll look up the website and send it to you. They're great people. They take everything and they come out to the car, and you don't even have to sort it. They deal with it.
yeah, thank you.
So Paul and Susan, I'm always a little curious when I see the trash disposal costs go down. Is there something driving that, or?
No, I don't spend a lot of time at the transfer station anymore, but that's just, we've tried to reduce the number of hauls on the cardboard compactor by upping the pressure on the crusher, and so every little thing helps. It's the more we can get in a container, the less hauls we have to do, the less money we spend.
So is the overall market stabilizing a little bit on on disposal?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's not as much of a market price as what, I mean, it's not grocery store prices, trust me. But I mean, our haul rates are stable like for each year.
Right.
And our trash rates right now are stable, but glass just went up again, but then we're getting more revenue for cardboard.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Some of that is like going to the grocery store these days. You don't know what you're gonna get.
For pure trash, we're locked in at an annual rate. What can vary basically overnight is the recycling rates, which is glass and plastics.
Right.
Currently, cardboard has been a revenue generator for us, so that's a good thing. And scrap metal is also a revenue generator for us. But plastics can go, it could jump from $60 a ton to 80. Same thing with glass. And we're just at the whim of the market when that comes into play. Nobody will commit long-term to rates on either of those byproducts.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the market was getting any better on that, if there was any more end use type of stuff, so that there was a bit of a price, somewhat of a price stabilization on that, or if we were still are we still feeling the effects of not shipping to China, or are they actually recycling plastic? Is it just being thrown away?
That's a Paul question.
Yeah, well, probably some of both is what's happening.
Okay.
And I think industry in this country has been, at least from what readings I'm able to do, is slow in creating the machinery, the market for recycling plastics into more usable things. And all you have to do is walk through a grocery store, and every time I do, I'm just astounded at the packaging that I see that just doesn't benefit anybody. I guess it keeps the preservatives safe, but other than that, it's an awful situation.
Yeah.
What else would you like us to discuss? Have to look at my cheat sheet.
Was there something specific that was a repair you were looking to, or just putting more money to the side for possible repairs or maintenance and repairs?
Well, there is the wall by the second compactor still needs to be fixed. Paul, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it's a wall that basically our highway department built years ago. And because our landfill is not capped, water, either from rain or snow melt, percolates down through the landfill, runs under our paved area, and washes out fill that is behind it's basically a boulder wall that was built by the highway department. And it's caused some potholes up on top. We've had to cut asphalt and fill them several times. And the ultimate cure is to put in some drainage. And we actually attempted to do that. I think it was early this year, early summer, but the ground was so wet that for safety reasons, we closed up the trench because the walls of the trench were actually throbbing from the moisture, and it was just a totally unsafe situation. So that's still hanging. It's pending. It's not at a critical point, but it is something that does need to be addressed. I'm also starting to explore what would be involved if we really want to absolutely close our landfill and cap it properly. And if we did that, it would then become available for I'll call it a municipal solar array with some revenue generating possibilities. But DEP does not allow solar arrays on landfills that are not closed appropriately. We've never been under the gun to do it because it's a small landfill. So, I mean, it could exist the way it has for quite some time without any issue. But I want to just explore the pros and cons and costs, just so that we know what our options are.
So do you need any funding for that, Paul, or is that just a research thing?
Right now, it's a research stand.
I mean, it sounds like a great idea.
I can tell you that monies ultimately would be needed for hiring an engineering firm, and the first steps of that would be to do some test borings throughout the site to find out depths of trash and so forth. I have an engineer friend who's kind of working on the side, and I hope to get some information from him in terms of general, maybe call it generic parameters. When I get those, I'll certainly be in touch with FinCom to see if and when it makes any sense.
All righty.
Okay. Any other questions?
How are you doing?
How am
That's my question for you. How you doing? How's COVID doing, Sue?
Oh, I sent out that little memo once I figured out on my new laptop, I had to get the new Excel license up and running. We've had 204 cases in the last 4 weeks of COVID, just in Berlin. And I try to keep track of the numbers. I try to play a little COVID cop, you know, mask cop. You know, people see me coming and I go, mask. It's just in trying to keep up with all the information that's out there. You know, I read, I watch the news. It's we're all doing the best we can, but we're getting weary.
Still changes daily. Exactly. It still changes daily. It's amazing.
But
Sure,
I
Janet
think
could-
we're going to see a good sized drop in the next, I would say, 2 weeks.
Yeah, the trend is definitely going down from all the Board of Health meetings that I've been attending in the last week.
Yep.
Thankfully.
And, you know, we
finally.
went from 77 down to 44 cases. And I expect the information that will be available tonight to be even less. So crossing our fingers.
Yeah. Well, the surge in Boston is telling us it's on the downward spiral.
There you go.
They,
Yeah.
they have been spot on with all the previous predictions. So I can't imagine they're going to be wrong now.
They're magic.
I listened to the waste report.
Yeah. Isn't that
Every week.
amazing?
What a great job that is.
I just find that so fascinating.
Oh, Stan, I'm sorry I started us on this detour. do you want to continue on transfer station, or do you want to move over to Board of Health lines?
Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Board of Health now, please.
Okay, Board of Health. All right. Okay.
Okay, in here is a request. You can see I'm blind here. The normal standard stuff, and really it was just Donna's increase, I believe. Our part-time clerk. But it's really Neshoba Health, and Neshoba Nursing. I figured you guys would be interested in. Because we had to revise it last minute. Any questions with the Board of Health?
No, but the Neshoba one is in a different spreadsheet, is
Yes.
it not? Yeah.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
We got the
No, that's all right, I
revised.
just-
I think I'm as all as one big pie, but
Yeah. Okay. Here's the Neshoba Health.
okay. We had originally forecasted less, but we just got their assessment in. I believe it was last week, which I copied their assessment letter. And they went up based on how they're allocating this year. They're using a per capita fee plus 5% over what we had last year. So, which is more than your, 2-something% rule for increases.
Is, Sue, is that per capita charge a new part in how they charge the contract?
Yeah, I mean, this is a new way that they were doing it. They were,
They've never listed a per capita approach prior. They may have been doing it internally, but this is the first time that it's been external to the member towns.
Thank you.
and I'd hate to see if we had to go and get our own sanitarian.
Yeah.
We pay a
And
lot.
here's Neshoba Nursing.
Yeah, and they use the same formula for that.
She comes to Berlin, what is it, once a week or once every 2 weeks? She does flu clinics, blood pressure, flu vaccines. I know I got mine with her, and she does blood pressure clinics and things like that, right? But,
Yes.
and she's on a somewhat regular schedule.
Yes.
Good.
And that just leaves, I think, the animal inspector.
That's the animal inspector.
4-9.
Whoops, I have to hide my list. What is it again?
249.
249. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've got all the good stuff in the budget.
Okay, so animal inspector's up.
Okay. Gotta make it bigger. Really, the only difference is from last year to this year is the COLA.
There you have it.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Any other questions for the chairman?
Mhm.
I'm good, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. Oh, and we haven't heard any more pricing, have we, Margaret?
On which?
Test kits.
On which? On test kits?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard a thing. So I don't know if Victoria or the fire chief have heard anything on those. But no, I haven't heard a thing.
Okay.
Paul and I are trying to keep up.
When I get my 4 free kits, I'll bring them over. You guys can have them.
Hey, does
I
anybody,
ordered mine right away. I'm still waiting for them to show up.
does anybody know, and maybe it's a question for Victoria, but Susan, my sister, has been searching high and low for someone to come to give my dad his booster shot. We have like maxed out. I'm gonna actually ask tomorrow at Maynard if they open a vial and there's any extra, will they let me know? But has anybody heard?
What's the question, Janet?
A booster shot to come to the house.
Oh, to go to the house. I don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah. They were doing them and I think we missed the window.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because I was going to say touch base with Victoria. She
Yeah,
might have
I
it
just
in
was
on that.
curious if anybody heard in the Board of Health area. And
No,
I'm gonna keep
no.
looking, but he's just not able to go out.
Right. Right.
We
No.
can also touch base with Neshoba.
I think she called there already.
Okay.
So I'll keep trying. It's not that crucial. It's not like he's going anywhere and doesn't have a
Is
lot
he,
of.
is he in a wheelchair or can I?
No, but he's just not, he's just gotten very weak. So he really isn't getting out.
Mhm.
It's pretty homebound.
Yeah, they did have a program for homebound individuals. I can't tell you the timeline. I just don't know
I
that.
think it ended in November. And then
I
in
think
November, he
something.
was out and about. So
Okay. Okay.
Janet, have you talked to Victoria?
I think Susan did, yes. And I don't want to take up for this personal. I just didn't know if they knew if anybody's still doing home visits.
Offhand, no.
Okay, thank you.
Keep our ears open.
Well, aren't you guys glad we're on Zoom?
It can be handy. Yes, it can.
I
Zoom.
dropped the ball. I apologize, everyone. We've been chasing, possibly closing the transfer station on Saturday. One of our employees is going in for surgery, so making arrangements for payroll changes and all sorts of other good stuff.
But you
And
can
it's-
now, Sue, you can take this off your list. It's done now.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good
Everybody,
night, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good night,
it.
Sue. Good night,
Thank you.
Paul.
You
Nice
guys are
job.
always thorough.
Thank you.
You guys are always very thorough and great. Thank you.
Paul, I sent an email to the town, the Board of Health email.
He's
With the link.
gone.
Oh,
They're gone.
okay.
what do
Didn't
you,
even need my comment.
I'll
Oh,
make sure we look at it tomorrow.
okay, it's just a website link, so
Oh, good. Susan's still there.
thanks.
I was gonna say Paul forgot to shut off his computer before he closed the lid.
Oh, that's why he's, okay, that's why he looks like he's there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send him another text.
Seems to work. Yeah.
It
So
does.
Finance Committee, Bob Conry touched base with June, I think it was last week, and asked if the town had any feedback on their FY23 preliminary budget. I brought this to the board on Monday night and I shared the board's feedback with you. I copied the Finance Committee on the board's feedback, and I wondered if the Finance Committee has any additional feedback for the school committee that we could pass along to them.
Well, I mean, I think Margaret, I certainly agreed with everything that you said, and you and the select board said. I wouldn't add any. I don't have anything to add separate, and any great knowledge that I have. It's a matter of trying to not have a 10% increase in the school budget. I mean, I don't know what else to tell them other than that we need to be closer to the number we said, but I don't know how much they can do. I mean, with the special ed costs doing what they're doing, and I don't know. They start cutting teachers because the special ed costs are going through the roof. I don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly don't have a good answer on all that. Glad I'm not on the school board.
I know.
Margaret, did you reach out back around to ask where the money goes that they get refunded? Remember you talked about how,
Circuit breaker.
yeah,
Yeah.
it might be an easier, Kool-Aid to swallow if we knew, we were getting back, 30,000 of the 100,000. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so what we need to look at from the school is we need to look at the revenues breakdown. And Scott, you were at the, and Julie both. I think both of you were at the school, the preliminary budget presentation.
Yeah.
I don't remember them getting into great detail with the revenues. Do you? Okay, all right. So we're gonna have to ask them to shift. So what I could do is I could shoot them an email and ask them to send any revenue detail they have, in particular, how they apply the prior years. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, the circuit breaker money they're receiving for the prior year to the next year's budget. So I will ask them that question.
I do know that the preliminary was that the preliminary, normally they do another round of looking at it to see where they can cut also. And I think they were just looking for guidance.
I never remember hearing anything about that money coming back in and how they disperse it in prior years. Does anybody else?
Circuit breaker at one time, they used to offset payroll costs when we were doing it at the memorial school. But usually it was towards the end of the year as to whether or not they had the funds elsewhere, I think, for the circuit breaker.
But wouldn't salaries be covered in line item? Why would you use it to offset salary?
Well, it would be the overall payroll costs in their budget is where they would offset it. They would usually make a transfer towards the end of the year.
They have their public budget hearing scheduled, I believe, for February 22nd. So that's gonna be coming up in a little over 3 weeks.
It's the day before their meeting with the finance
The
committee.
finance, you're right, it is.
Vacation week? I think it's vacation week.
Hmm.
Well, Margaret, you certainly carried our message forward there on the communications with them. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll just follow up with this simple, what I think is a simple question about how they apply their circuit breaker funds from the state.
Were they able to break down their line items a little bit better to be able to actually see it's not fee for service, but the out of district costs are for, I mean, I'm assuming this high special ed needs, well, I know some of it has to do with a number of people coming into the district with English as a second language and having to, that's something that this district has really never had to really deal with before. So that was an added cost. I was at a couple other meetings and I was just trying to think of some of the other things that added to it. But
I think the board and I think the board and finance committee's letter asked for budget line detail. I think that was one of the requests.
I thought we did. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
yeah, we did.
I thought so.
but I'll mention that too, in the nicest possible way. Okay.
Well, one never wants to take away from the
Definitely not.
education of a child. And if it's, you know, unfortunately, those are areas that are basically out of our control.
Exactly, they are, those are.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, now
Hi,
Mary's
Mary.
back. Hi, Mary.
Best to all. And
Link.
I'm leaving. Toodles.
Well, I've got nothing else tonight. I just want to run that by the finance committee and get your thoughts on that. So I'll follow up with them with those few questions, and you should have all your budget meetings lined up.
Yeah.
Coming up.
We have one request for a change. Conservation Commission wanted to know if they
Oh,
could
right.
have a different day because they actually meet on the first and third Wednesday, which is the same time you guys meet. So they were wondering if they could either have the 9th, which you have nothing as of right now, or do we try to put them on February 23rd with the school?
Oh, I vote for the 9th, even though.
Yeah. I was the 9th filling, that was our reserving a day for.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, you have nothing scheduled for that day.
And we just had the school for that.
On the February 23rd, it's just Berlin-Boylston at 7:30.
Oh, I thought we were having both schools for some reason.
No, Assabet is actually the week that we were going to have conservation on the 16th is
Oh,
Assabet.
okay. I was thinking conservation was with, okay, I knew that. I thought
Yep.
they were with the school. Sorry.
I mean,
I'm okay with
school's not
going to the
gonna take
night.
2 hours. What's that?
I think Stan's hoping for the 9th off.
Well,
Since there's nothing
it
scheduled.
Seems, yes, I'll be the first to say yes, but I just,
For your honesty.
but realistically, the school's not going to take, 2 hours. We're at 2 hours now for tonight from having three different,
Right.
3 different groups presenting. The schools are not going to take 2 hours. So let's just put
What
Concom
about
on it.
conservation?
Just put them on at 8:45, and the schools are limited to it. That gives the schools an hour and 15 minutes. It should be plenty. If it's not, we'll cut them off.
8:45 on February 23rd.
Yes, please.
Is that what you want to do? Okay.
That is what I want to do.
So now we'll just have Assabet. We'll have Assabet what day, June?
On February 16th will be Assabet only at 7:30.
And the 9th is still, is nothing.
The 9th is free. February 2nd, which is your next meeting, you'll have the town clerk, council on aging, the assessors, recreation, and then myself.
Oh, that's a heavy night.
Yeah.
If
well,
you
we'll see
want,
how
I
that
can
goes, and if we
always-
have to,
I can always pop over to the night of the Assabet.
yeah. I mean, Assabet they never take long either.
No, they're pretty organized. They'll come
Exactly.
with their
They
nice,
won't,
colorful.
yeah. They won't be longer than a half an hour.
Mm-mm.
We'll talk to the accountant on the 16th then.
Tentatively.
Well, the
16th will-
Assabet, this one,
Assabet.
ask a question. I know there was mention that apparently Shrewsbury is looking to join the group for Assabet.
Mm.
Do we expect that to be any type, I mean, is that something you're looking for fiscal year 23? I know that was mentioned by one of the select board meeting, I think it's a coffee talk with
Mhm.
the representative or state senator there was mentioning.
Yes, she was.
That's gonna have to
Oh.
be a charter change though, won't it? If they're gonna add a town into the original, is that what you're saying? Is that what you're implying?
Yes.
A regional
yes.
agreement
A
amendment.
regional, yeah, that'll have
Yeah.
to be a whole,
Um,
because Because I'm
Do they
sure
have
there's a lot
capacity
of
for that?
towns that would like to be joining Assabet.
I don't know. I guess we're gonna need more information on that. I haven't gotten anything direct from Assabet on that.
Yeah, so that might be make more time with them. If there's something, I don't know if it necessarily anything that affects their budget, but maybe the discussion of what that process is. Because there was some panic, I think with the state center made the mistake of stating that Berlin wasn't part of the charter of that, and he was mistaken. I was thinking, well, when did we leave?
Oh, Lynn Ryan wouldn't have liked that since she's been there from the beginning. Woo.
Because of that, it was also because if the towns that aren't part of the charter could definitely have their impact of number of kids that have been coming there because of this. And they said they would be taking, I get an average of the number of students from Berlin, and they'll be locking in those number of students. But it would probably impact if more students wanted to go in the future than what Berlin's been sending in the past.
So the concern, Scott, is you might have it might limit the number of students
Well,
that there's slots for. Is that the idea?
Yes, I mean, there's that was just mentioned that we would at least be locked in, or at least not reduced from what I think you said indicated something like a 3-year average or something like that.
Yes.
But I think at the same time, this might turn that meeting into more than the typical Assabet meeting.
I can almost guarantee that. I met a few months ago with Ernie, the superintendent, and their new business and administration manager, and they were elaborating on that. So there's no question that they'll be talking with you about their new formula. They will.
All right, well, even so, I mean, they still won't be more than an hour.
Good with the 23rd for Concom and Berlin Boylston the same evening?
Yes.
So Berlin Boylston will be at 7:30 and then Concom will be at 8:45.
And I imagine conservation is going to be talking about their agent and the land acquisition that they want for capital planning that they've presented. Is that, I'm just trying to figure out what is it that conservation has really, except for that.
They were going to talk about the new agent and their expenses and how currently they're using wetlands and open space to fund their agent. So that would be a discussion as to how they were going to fund that. And then I think you also wanted to double check on what the status was on the CPA fund projects.
That is correct.
If I understand it correctly, we're now referring it back to the old McGrail property. Is that how I understand that as well?
Yes,
I think I
they
read
chose
something
that one
about
name.
that.
Yeah, they wanted to be just referred to as one name, and that was the name.
For Linden and Alignment, is that where that
All right.
is?
Anything else for tonight, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't have anything, Stan. You want a motion to
Adjourn. I motion to adjourn.
Well, not everyone has said they don't have anything.
That was
Hold on.
quick.
Hold on. Scott and Julie, you guys all set?
I'm good.
I'm good.
All right. Now, may I have a motion?
You go, Janet.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourning at 9:32.
Oh.
Thank you.
Just drop the
Alrighty.
I want to just say best of luck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Best of
Thank
luck,
you.
Mary.
Margaret, yes.
Margaret,
Margaret,
yes.
thank you.
I mean,
Thank you all,
Margaret.
and I look forward
I'm
to
telling
seeing you
saying
soon.
Mary.